We have a series of wonderful talks tonight. We are going to kick off with our very own institution, I think is too small a word for this man, but please put your hands together for Tom Parslow. There you go, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I apologize in advance for this talk. I didn't know there was going to be so many people here. I didn't know what I was inflicting on people. It got to 4 p.m. today and I was fed up of work. I was like, I should give a talk. So anyway, this is what's happened. So yeah. Yeah, so I've been talking about a project for a little bit, and this is not really it. So that's why I put part one. So the idea is GPToaster. So if anyone used to watch Red Dwarf and remembers the talkie toaster, the pinnacle of AI, and you know, now that AI works, which is pretty cool, wouldn't it be cool to have a psychotic toaster that only wants to make you toast? And obviously, the easy way to do that would be to hook up the ChatGPT API. But like, who wants to do that? That's boring. It has to, you know, it has to be made specifically with bread products. Thinking about bread products the entire way through. So, I'm going to be surprised by my slides. Oh yeah. So yeah, manage your expectations. Yeah, like I started this project at 4 p.m. today. It's shit. I didn't think of enough toast puns. I originally thought, you know, there's going to be loads of puns around toast. It'd be great. Didn't think of any, apart from one. So, you know, the thing that I decided at 4 p.m. today to talk about that I was like, I can do this in the next hour. This will be fine. I can write some code and do something, is tokenization. So LLMs, the large language models, like ChatGPT, they take a list of tokens as their input. So that's what the context is. And a list of tokens are a list of numbers that each one representing maybe a word, maybe not a word, maybe a bit of a word. And tokenization is the process of taking those words. So, you know, you cut and paste in the thing that says, you know, your assignment for this year, for this class is to do this, and then you say, please do my work for me, and that text then has to be transformed into tokens, which are a list of numbers. OpenAI very helpfully have a web page where you can go and play with their tokenizer. So here I've put in, would you like some toast? And you can see that it breaks down into 6 tokens. Each of those, so the interesting things here are, each word is a token. That's not always the case. I probably should have showed an example where it wasn't, but you know, shoddy. But one of the things that really surprised me the first time I looked at this stuff is that you can see that, so would with a capital W, that's a token. That's distinct from would with a lowercase w. They're 2 different tokens. As far as ChatGPT is concerned, at the base level, would with a capital W, would with a lowercase w, entirely different words. There is a bit above that where it kind of rectifies that again, but yeah. And the other interesting thing I think here, for some definition of interesting, is that most of those tokens, so after the first token, most of those tokens include the space before them. So again, the spaces are in ChatGPT are often part of the words. So again, like with a space before it is a separate token from like without a space before it. But anyway, looking at this, this is all obviously what the most advanced AI in the world is based on. What if it could be a bit more shit? So I decided that I needed to build my own tokenizer as the beginning of my own. I'm going to say large language model, very small language model that I'm planning to build to drive my toaster. And the way these things work is called byte pair encoding, BPE. I think it was originally defined as like a form of compression. And then just later on, people are like, oh, that'll be useful for AI as well. So what you do is you take your alphabet. You start with one token per letter. With what I've done, actually for ChatGPT, they start with one token per byte, which is really clever. That's how they represent like emojis and other weird Unicode stuff that they've never heard. The weird stuff that you wouldn't otherwise be able to represent. So we start off with one token per byte, so per letter, and you can see I've got down here. Here's my starting one. So I've my tokenizer as its alphabet has the letters all in capitals because who needs lowercase, a bit of punctuation and a space. Then we want to train it. That starts with like 33 tokens. I think I've decided I'm going to maybe have 1,024 tokens. Don't know. Maybe that's a bit ambitious. So what we want to do is we want to get the list of tokens that's going to give that's going to represent the corpus we have. So if you were ChatGPT or if you're OpenAI, you take the entire internet, everything you can get your grubby little hands on, steal it all, and run over that, get the statistics of that, use that. I've started a little bit smaller. I've just taken all the scripts from Red Dwarf. So we start off by taking all the scripts, tokenizing them with my 33 tokens, and I find the most common pair of tokens over all of those, and it happens to be E and R. I don't know. I guess Rimmer has. I don't know, lots of words have E and R in them. It's fine. We combine those two together, so now we have a new token, ER, and that's going to be token 34. Put that back in, run it again, do it again, keep on going. Each time we're adding another token until we have 1,024 tokens. So each time we're taking the two tokens that most commonly appear together, making them one token. Repeat that a whole bunch of times. And behold, so bit of Python coding later. If you're really interested, there is a gist there. I could post it later. It's terrible code. I had to write that and do the slides, and I spent more time looking for bread images than I did writing the code, I think. But anyway, it works. So would anyone like any toast in my new tokenization tokenizer is 260, whatever. But you can see that it's started to get some words. So would anyone like any of all? It's got a whole token. It's got a token for the whole word. Now I didn't tell it that those were words. It's just been like, oh, those things appear quite a lot. I will assign them a number, and then I'm massively ashamed of this. The one word that I thought, this is the word that should, I even put my thumb on the scales a little bit. In the code, I changed the weighting whenever it sees toast anywhere near something. So I was like, all the toast related words will get in there and it'll be much, much better. But no, toast is TOA, the token TOA, then the token S, then the token T. So I failed. But one little bonus that I didn't even think of this, but it happened, is that you can see there that it's assigned a token 608 to SMEG. So it's decided that is a word that needs its own token, which that made me happy. That is literally all I got. So I'm very sorry.
Before you sit down, does anyone have any questions? I mean, so many people must have questions. Sorry, you go first. There you go.
Was it just an arbitrary number of how many tokens you were going to generate, or is there like a point where you naturally stop?
In my case, yes, and absolutely, it was an arbitrary number. I think probably it might be worth looking at what the frequency starts to be as you start to get so I was noticing it starts to be it's found 200 occurrences of this, which seems quite low. So yeah, and so I think it's both what your corpus will support in terms of whether there are enough tokens in there to actually get statistics to be able to even say what the 124th token should be, but also how complex your model is going to be. Because each one of those tokens now implies a whole bunch of weights in the model. And like, I want to train it on my laptop. I'm not going to pay for training things. This isn't important enough to hire a GPU. So yeah, might have to adjust it for that.
If you were to build a bigger model, do you expect it to be performing better or worse?
So I think so in general for AI models, the size of the model is dictated by how much training material you have, and there's quite a few papers on like the ideal number of tokens for a given size of model. So I've heard such wide-ranging things there, and then the other thing is like how much money you have to train it. So the bigger it is, like ChatGPT, I believe, cost a few million to train, and that's if you get it right the first time.
Hello. Hello, everybody. My name's Olly. Yeah, Tom's talk there was very sort of theoretical and quite hard to follow because not to understand, I should say, but to follow on from. This is more just showing a thing that I did. So why did I do this? So I created an AI-powered to-do list, something I've been sort of playing around with the last couple of weeks. There's a quote from Kevin Kelly, the futurologist, where he said the next generation of businesses is going to be taking like existing things and adding AI. So I thought, let's take something that is absolutely the most classic, simple project, a to-do list, and see if we could add AI to make it better. I'd noticed with ChatGPT that you can get it to break down tasks into, you say, this is a set of tasks, can you break them down into subtasks? And I thought that was quite cool functionality, but obviously none of that perseveres, right, beyond the next thing. It doesn't, keep up to date. It doesn't track that data in a database. It doesn't remind you 3 weeks later to check whether you've actually done any of that stuff. So I thought it might be worth a go trying to create something a little bit like this. So yeah, and I guess the other reason that I thought this might be helpful, I don't know what your guys' to-do lists look like. I use an app called Todoist.com. And these are kind of, things will sit on my to-do list for like weeks at a time with nothing happening. And often the tasks are like really unactionable. They're kind of like research coffee table. And I don't know what to do. Like, well, the next step of that is, and there's a lot of shame about it. And I'll just sort of skip over them, And I kind of thought like I think this is potentially what large language models could offer is a bit of scrutiny. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like someone seeing into your shame, because no one ever sees the shame of your to-do list because it's so hidden somewhere on your phone. But if someone could see it, or if something that you thought was a person could see it, maybe that would inspire you to action. Remy earlier was talking about Ex Machina, the film, where we see a robot and we're not sure whether it is a robot or whether there's kind of a soul or a consciousness there. And I think potentially the advent of these kind of machines that can pass the Turing test might change our relationship with technology a little bit, because we'll start thinking, even if we know that they're not looking at us, like they are looking at us. A sort of similar thing that reminds me of is apparently if you have like a biscuit jar in a communal kitchen, if you put a pair of eyes, just a picture of eyes over the top of it, you're less likely to get people stealing from you because people subconsciously feel like they're being watched. So anyway, that was some of my thoughts around this. But let me just show you what it does. Okay, so we're going to add a task. Let's add something quite vague, like research coffee table. I should apologize, this is quite slow. So that should be swirling around. You guys can go and try this now if you want to. I hope this will work. There we go. So it's given me a star rating for my vague action here, right? We've got 3 stars for this. How about specifying the type of research, like research wooden coffee tables online for the living room? Okay, great. Well, I could type that in myself, but instead, I'm going to ask Todobot to improve my wording. It's trying to improve the wording of my task, research coffee table. A drawback of this is like it doesn't know any of the context, right? So often it will suggest stuff. Here we go. Find 3 coffee table designs online and compare prices. Maybe that's what I want to do next. Maybe not. I can go in and edit it. but I guess, that gives me something to work with, or at least, and now I'm annoyed, right? I didn't start off with a blank piece of paper. I started off with a blank piece of paper, but now I've got something. I'm like, no, I don't want 3, I want 6 or something, The other thing it can do is we can say, right, okay, that's quite a good high-level task. Let's try and break that down into subtasks. This also is quite slow, I have to say. The reason it's so slow is I'm using GPT-4 here as the model. I tried it with GPT-3 and it threw a lot of errors because GPT-3 is not as good as returning JSON. So basically I'm just getting like JSON back, and the back end here is all Ruby on Rails. So it's just kind of turning that JSON into a hash. There we go. Search for 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, okay, fine, great. It's pretty much just taken the top thing and just broken it down to words. That's pretty much all it does. It's quite nice. It gives you little times there. I think if I were to develop this further, I think the next thing this could do is schedule those events. You can maybe say like, I'll have like half an hour every day where I could do some of this stuff, and it could say, oh, okay, well, we'll do this on this day. I think it would be quite cool if it could chastise you if you haven't done the thing. So yeah, at the moment it doesn't do that because it doesn't know whether you said you were going to do it on Friday and it's now Monday and you haven't done it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The other thing I wanted to show you is, and this is just exciting for me, is this was on the front page of Hacker News today, which is very exciting. Or it was. I just went in the toilet just now, and really disappointingly it slipped off. But there we go, number 37. It wasn't number 15, so it was probably the most exciting thing that's happened to me today. But anyway, there you go. That's all I got.
Brilliant work, Olly. I think I need to keep my distance just in case there's any wailing. Do you have the other microphone, Alex, or shall we just pass it across? Okay. For now, Olly, do you mind passing it to Susanna? Oh, okay, brilliant, perfect, thanks. Like lightning.
So is that okay? Yeah. I do a lot of work on accessibility, especially cognitive disabilities due to my own experience of ADHD and inability to read written instructions.
Yeah.
I often use ChatGPT to simplify instructions for myself. So that's one thought I had.
Yeah.
The other thought I had is there are people who genuinely struggle so much with breaking down steps into smaller steps. Could your product or your tool be used for humanitarian purposes?
Yeah, that's a really good thought. And in fact, that was kind of my idea a week or two back. I was like, this should totally be, so I think it was my wife has ADHD and she sort of struggles with some of this stuff as well. And I was like, this should so be targeted towards the ADHD community where, people have trouble with some of this stuff. I kind of sort of span away from that when I realized how patronizing the robot often sounds. And I didn't want to sort of storm into an ADHD subreddit and be like, you guys are doing things wrong. But I think potentially it could be, yeah.
In my talks and stuff, I was recently on a podcast saying it, is that I don't actually mind being patronized. If it helps me do the job, I don't care. I just want to get the job done.
Yeah, interesting.
Something to think about.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, go on, Remy.
So if you're on the front page of Hacker News today and you're talking to the ChatGPT API, do you have any money left now?
I don't think you actually need to get that many people to get on the front page of Hacker News. Is one thing I've learned. Earlier today, I checked. I've used about $3 based on all this stuff. I've got a $30 a month cap. So if this was a huge product, you probably couldn't offer it for free. But I think, as models get faster and cheaper, I was reading today about how OpenAI are planning to make GPT-4 quicker. Like that would make this experience a lot better. This experience at the moment is pretty slow. So I think in the long term, it's doable. Yeah.
I have a question, if that's all right, Olly. So I think this looks brilliant. It's a really good idea. I was just curious as to whether you'd considered a more conversational approach to almost elicit from the person, almost like counseling. It's like, okay, so what do you think is the next step for breaking down this task, etc.?
One of the things I've sort of come to realize about to-do lists is, although everyone understands what a to-do list is, they fulfill different functions for everybody. Some people will have it as just their list for the day. Some people have a sort of long-term goals. I went back and forth with the kind of chat aspect of it. At the moment, it just kind of has little messages. At one point, it had like a sort of a chat window where it would send you messages quite frequently. I found that quite annoying, and I kind of switched over to having the information more contextual, sort of like in the UI. But yeah, I think potentially that would be quite cool. And if you could have responses, I don't know. Part of me thinks maybe we think the way you interact with AI is chat because we've all seen ChatGPT, and actually maybe that isn't how it's going to work. But I don't know. It definitely could be built like that.
Yeah. It's a really cool project anyway. Thanks so much. Big round of applause for today. Thank you.
So I'm Niall. I've been doing personal projects for so long, and it's kind of my passion. I do it as a hobby. And one of my sort of exploratory exercises was going into TensorFlow.js and to use it as a way of creating art. And I did this thing like not too long ago. This is one of my wallpaper ideas where I was like, I want to have some curves. I want them to be separated with like colors as well, and pretty much what you see on the screen as well. So this is like kind of using TensorFlow for maybe something that it wasn't really supposed to be used for, except I can still do like a lot of things with it that I'm super happy with. This is one of mine. It's a pride flag. I've got like many configs that you can do with this. Actually, I did this using a graphing calculator at first. This is like my way of working it out with the I being lots of things. Anyways, I didn't want to get into it. But here's another, and I've even done a bit of shading as well, which is using a convolutional filter. If anyone knows them, but the way a convolution will work is it will average, or say if you want to average or smooth out an image, you'll sample the area around a pixel and then average all of the pixels within that area, and then you can then have a new image from that old image. And that's essentially how an averaging filter will work. But those sort of numbers that you put into that filter, they can be anything. And so I went for a shader, and it works in the end. I was very surprised, but yeah. Then another one of my projects is a mandala generator as well. I will also hide this because that's kind of covering. But this is using some Voronoi fractals and diagrams where it's got a load of random points, and they're trying to figure out what they're closest to, or what the pixel is, which pixel is closest to which point, and then the edges are in between all of them. I'm probably doing a shit job explaining, but there we go. And that's also, you can also color that as well, like that. And then a completely random other thing that I've done is a cellular automata, which is, you can basically draw around in this. And it does a load of just sand that falls down, and it will sink below the water. But cellular automatas are entirely possible with convolution, where a famous example would be Conway's Game of Life. And that's just a bunch of rules applied to neighboring pixels of a single pixel. And so that's like also entirely possible, but I've not implemented it, sadly. Then this one is a bit of a trippy one, so beware. But there we go. That's just like each color channel is offset by a certain amount. I think like R is like 1, G is 1.5, and then B is 2, let's say. And then they're all like in a spiral as well, which uses bearings, and it's complicated. Now, if you want a bit of a demo on like how like the ins and outs work, I can give it to you. Yeah. Right. Okay. So I'll just close this because that's going to take a lot of my memory. But here's one of my projects, which I've basically done for this. And this is kind of like the way the API works. It's all a single page documentation, which is the best possible thing for a developer. I don't know why it's not going, but it should be, or maybe it is. Yeah, it is. I'll just close a bunch of these. But yeah, you can kind of go through all of this. There's a lot of basic arithmetic operations, which I am also using. But there's things like convolution, there's a lot of other things. And obviously you can do all of this with like machine learning and not create art, but I'm creating art. And if I'll just showcase this now, this is kind of like a quadratic, it should be, there we go. And that's just using a very basic equation, just right here, where I'm creating some axes, and that's just like a range function, where it goes from 0 to the height of 0 to the width. And then that's stacking in each sort of axis as well. So you can index each X and Y separately, but it will all be in there in the end. Now I do have a way of converting to colors as well, which is also, so you can, another sort of usage of the API. But then here, if I go up, you can also do a circle, which is the equation for that, if you don't know, is x squared plus y squared equals r squared, where r is the radius of the circle. And that's kind of written in terms of TensorFlow language right there as well, except it's centering it on 0.5, 0.5, and r would be 0.5 as well. And then if I go back to this, it should, never mind. Oh, I need to actually save it first. There we go. And then finally a bit of color as well. Didn't get the kernel working, but
people can live code on it.
Yeah.
People live coding one-handed. That's really where it's at.
I prepared in advance. I'm just commenting out, and Ree could be uncommenting, so it's all good. But there should be the colors as well, eventually. There we go. Yeah. And I can put this on GitHub. I can put this on GitHub as well if people want to check it out and see how it works. Yeah.
Okay, we have an immediate question. Do you mind just handing the mic over just briefly? Yeah, well, Alex.
Thank you.
Yeah,
so my question is really, really boring, but I've been looking at using TensorFlow.js because it looks more fun than TensorFlow with Python. And do you have any recommendations for like the kind of build process setup? Like there's so many different ways to have these things working, and I just like you can do it by just importing the script into your page, but like, have you managed to get it working with TypeScript and that kind of stuff, or anything else like that?
So I do. I just do it oriented towards like my personal projects, which is just a simple script import in the HTML. Just the CDN, the latest version of it. So
That's how I started.
yeah, nice. Yeah, exactly.
If it works, don't break it. Other questions? Go on, Andy.
I was thinking about the shader stuff
Mhm.
and how you converted the TensorFlow output into shader code. Was that GLSL, I guess?
Yeah, so I actually watched a video recently, and apparently there's something called Web GPU now, and that's apparently what TensorFlow uses under the hood. I have no idea what the details of this are, but yeah, that's a technology, I guess.
I was going to ask about that. So the latest versions of TensorFlow call out to the Web GPU.
I think so, yeah.
That's pretty damn cool. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Okay. Like, if it's okay to hold on to the microphone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. BC, is it? Oh, sorry. Oh,
No, it's-
yeah, okay. Bissy, is it okay to start setting up your laptop? And I'll just pepper you with one more question whilst we're doing that, if that's okay.
I'll get mine as well.
Yeah. Sounds good. So, me and Niall used to sort of work together back when I kidded myself that I had any kind of programming that I could teach him. But one of the things that
He's a great teacher.
Thanks, mate. But yeah, definitely one of those Star Wars situations where he's now become the master. But one thing I was curious about was whether you'd looked at generating some kind of visualization of the internal structure of something like a neural network or something like that, because like I've not seen TensorFlow used to generate visualizations like that. It was kind of beautiful. But
so I've recently been working on a kind of a physics simulation, and that will be using nodes and edges, where there's like nodes that can have connections that are coming out of the node. But these connections, they want to be at a certain angle coming out of the node. And it's also a certain radius or length. And they'll try to basically have a restoring force to then go back into that position. And I guess that could potentially be used to visualize a network or a neural network.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. I would be very excited to see that. Yeah. Well, that's something for a future show and tell.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's still not working at all, but
okay. Future. Future.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Big round of applause for Niall, everyone. Thanks so much. Okay. If you're okay.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Hi, BC.
So, my name is BC. So, but the full name is Adebisi. So, short form is BC. And I'm a policy consultant at Technopolis. And what I do there is I look at policies in emerging technologies. Currently, I'm working on delivering an impact study for the Alan Turing Institute and also providing support to the Digital Catapult. We're looking at future capabilities in AI and ML. I don't have any background in computer science or programming. But what I do have is a background in science and tech policy, and I have conducted research in AI strategies and AI in the MENA region. So MENA is Middle East and Northern Africa. And I used to be an intern here, up in spaces. But now we've moved to the pavilion building, so I got an upgrade. So that's good. Right, just a little bit about what we do at Technopolis where I work. It's a consultancy firm, and we specialize in research and innovation policy, providing advice and evidence to inform policies. We work closely with some of the public investors and actors in the AI ecosystem. This includes the Hartree Center, the Alan Turing Institute. I like them because I like AI. The Open Data Institute and Digital Catapult and UKRI. So that's what I do when I wake up in the mornings. So this slide was prepared by 12 a.m. this morning. So apologies in advance for any errors you see on it. Embarrassing if I get this wrong. Because I'm working on a project with Digital Catapult. I probably have to Google it. But it's a department within the UK government that funds innovation. Yeah, so they're doing work in AI, ML, and things like that. So that's what I'm working on now. So I'll probably ask you to Google it. I hope my boss doesn't see this. Yeah, so today I'm going to give a very, very broad overview of AI regulation across the world, looking at countries like China, the US, Europe, and UK. Like I said earlier, no background in computer science or programming, just a good understanding of how technology influences society. That's something I'm very passionate about. That's why I did a master's at Sussex and SPRU on science and tech policy. So let's get started. There's been an increase in a movement towards regulating AI. We've seen governments, grassroots people advocating for more governance of AI technologies. From US to Spain, AI is top of the agenda for many countries. And this movement can be traced to when we had the GDPR laws, which are the privacy-focused legislation. So looking at the numbers now, we're going to see how things have progressed. We've moved from having a very low number of AI-related bills being passed. In 2016, we had one, and that shot up to 37 in 2022. So it's quite clear that everyone is interested in regulating these technologies. And if we look at the countries who have passed AI-related bills, we see the US at the top with 22 bills, followed by Portugal and Spain. And if we go down to the bottom, the last three, we've got China, Germany, and Japan. So this gives a brief overview of how much is going on in that space and how intense it is. Everybody is excited, worried, trying to do something to make sure that we have the right technologies doing the right things. And one wonders, why is there this rush and increase? What's prompting it? Well, what's all the fuss about AI? Yeah. Now that AI tools are being deployed into society in forms of either predictive policing tools, financial scoring tools, and things like that, we've seen outcomes that create bias, discrimination, issues on diversity, privacy, and issues on fairness. So I must mention at this point that while regulators have been very open and aggressive in ensuring that AI technologies are governed, this movement towards the governance of AI has been pushed by people at the grassroots level, that some charities and nonprofits have been at the forefront of advocating for the regulation of AI, and that's why we are where we are today. Common issues when it comes to AI includes things about discrimination. If you can remember, around 2015, Amazon had a tool that it used to screen candidates who applied for jobs, and it was discovered that these tools were biased against women. When these tools were used, it screened out women for jobs, and it ended up bringing just white male men to get jobs. So that was very, very terrible. So it had to go, and it went. And the study in 2019 found that mortgage algorithms have been discriminatory towards Latino and African Americans. It's determined that they were not creditworthy when it came to having access to mortgages. So when we have these kinds of tools in the world, it creates a world whereby we heighten inequality. It's bad enough as it is. Think of now using tools like this to determine certain things. It's quite too much. So these are the two examples I could pull out, but if you want to read more about the wider implications of these tools in the world, these are good books to read. Automating Inequality by Virginia Banks, Artificial Intelligence by Meredith. So they give a good overview of how these tools have been used and their real life impacts and not imaginary impacts. So let's do a quick rundown of what we're seeing in the world when it comes to regulations and approaches. So governments are at a crossroad. So how do they find the right balance between promoting innovation without suffocating the development of AI systems? That's the big question. So we've got different countries adopting different approaches to regulating AI. From the EU, I think in March, they had the EU AI Act, which has given us insight into how the EU wants to regulate these technologies. And we have the FTC in US being very keen on, having a chokehold on the tech companies in the US, and also China proposing multiple regulations around technology companies. So I'm going to give a brief overview of each country I mentioned and what they're doing. So the United States takes a very regulatory approach. Its approach is looking at verticals of bias and transparency, which isn't quite surprising regarding the makeup of the American society. They're quite keen on ensuring that when these tools are out in the world, they do not create more bias than what we have now. So regulatory bodies such as the Federal Trade Commission is coming strong on companies that use algorithmic discrimination or intentionally use bad data and dark patterns. Some key AI legislation in the US coming up, the AI Bill of Rights, which is looking at guiding the design, deployment, and development of AI systems. But the thing about this Bill of Rights is that it's non-binding, so it's up to the companies to determine if they're going to do it or not, which is so. And we've got the Algorithmic Accountability Act, which is one lots of people are looking forward to. For this act, it will be binding on all companies, and it will require all companies to assess the impact of their automated systems, both the ones they use and sell, in terms of bias and effectiveness. The FTC is involved in this particular bill and will be ensuring that companies do these audits. And the thing about the US, it's quite interesting to see that at the state level, states are very active in ensuring that AI is being regulated. We have the New York's Bias Audit Law and the Artificial Intelligence Video Interview Act. So that's what's happening in the US at the moment, which is quite interesting to see. And the one that we all waited for and it came out in March was the EU AI Act. And the EU adopts a risk management approach. The Act covers a wide range of AI systems, including standalone software and AI integrated into products. It classifies AI systems into 4 categories. That's the major thing about this Act. So we've got 4 categories. The first one, unacceptable risk, high risk, limited risk, and minimal risk. So each of these risks have penalties when you break them, something like that. So I'm going to give you a picture of what it looks like. Yes. So the unacceptable risks that's the first one. This includes AI tools that threaten people's safety, their livelihoods, and their rights. Also tools that exploit specific vulnerable groups in society. The high risk tools or systems are those being used in HR, like the one Amazon had. Tools being used in banking and education. Those are termed as the high risk systems. And we've got the limited risk systems. These are things like chatbots and emotion recognition systems. So they are in the limited risk level. And we've got the low and minimal risk systems that don't really cause much harm. So they can be just in one corner. And so that's it for the EU. And the EU has fines if you break them. And the heftiest fines are imposed for violating the prohibition of specific AI systems. You're going to be charged up to 30 million euros or 6% turnover of your business if you violate any of this risks. So that's what companies have to think about if they are going to be entering the EU market or stay in the EU market. So we have China. Right. So China is so-so. And but the interesting thing about China is the fact that their own regulations are focused on recommendation systems and deepfake technology. And they have a very comprehensive approach to deepfake technology, which is quite new. So they've got a deep synthesis provision that governs deepfakes technologies, including text, images, audio, and videos produced using AI models. The regulations, like I said, are very comprehensive and may change the way that AI content is generated. You know, you think of China and be like, okay, but they are leading in the space of regulating deepfake technology. So that's something interesting to see. And we wonder if they will provide a model for the rest of Asia to follow. So we're looking out for that. And we come down to UK. The UK is taking a very pro-innovation approach to AI. So they support innovation in this space, but leaving it up to the regulators in different sectors to figure out how they want to regulate these technologies. Principles of fairness, transparency, privacy are also key for the UK in regulating AI technologies, but quite heavily dependent on regulators doing the work for them. When we compare the four countries and their approaches to regulating AI, we see there are some key issues: AI governance, AI ethics, and responsible AI. So these are the key things going on. So what does this mean for the AI industry in general when you have countries that are saying you must be responsible, you must be ethical, you must be accountable? This is what's going to happen. More regulations, like it or not. They're going to come down hard on AI, the AI industry, to ensure that they do the right thing at the right time. There is the possibility of important markets like EU, the US passing conflicting regulations. So AI companies have to think about how they're going to navigate this space. Look out for class action lawsuits, right? So with things like ChatGPT and things like that, working on data that is copyrighted, people are going to come together and take action. So that's something to look out for. And governments will not back down on regulation. Yes, we have lobbyists trying to change and influence policies, but some things will still stand strong. And I believe one of those things is responsible AI and fair AI and ethics is going to be a big deal. I know many private tech companies have disbanded their AI ethics teams. Yeah, they did that. But someone's going to hold them accountable. I don't know how that's going to happen, but it's going to happen. Yeah, so this is what I think is going to be happening when it comes to AI. And so the key question is, so what do we do considering all these issues? Right, I think that the first things, you need more privacy professionals in AI companies that are going to advise on how to navigate this emerging and ever-changing space, because it's not going to be constant. Things are going to change. Likewise, policies are going to change, and businesses need to think about implementing a risk management framework within their systems. And most of these capabilities, you don't have them in-house. You have to go outside to get them. So that's something to think about. And you have to think about AI governance and regulatory compliance. Very, very important if you're going to be working in the European market. And there's a need to craft policies and procedures to ensure compliance, while at the same time promoting AI and innovation. I think it's kind of difficult to do, but they've got to figure it out. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they have to do it. And I think something that's important to take away is that we have to integrate an interdisciplinary approach in developing AI systems to tackle issues relating to responsible AI and ethics. You can't have a room of the same people. You're just going to be thinking the same way. And if you want to create AI systems that are useful to everyone or most people, you have to have diversity in thinking. So you have to think about that and make sure we are in a room that reflects diversity of how the world looks like, not just how you look like. So that's very good. That's going to be very, very, very important. And I think that is the end of my short talk. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Bisi. That was a brilliant run through of possibly the most important regulations that are happening at the moment. I'm guessing we've got some questions and we've got Yann running. Chris, do you want to go first? Kick us off.
Yeah, thanks for the awesome talk. Do you think that regulators are coming down harder on AI than traditional forms of software
engineering and software development. In particular, a lot of big tech has been under criticism from people for not really respecting things like bias, but regulators have always been quite hesitant to enforce any kind of regulations. And do you think that AI regulations might go back and bleed back into non-AI types of technology?
I thank you for your question. No, I think regulators are not going to back down. There's too much at stake. Times are quite different now because everybody can see the harms caused by AI tools. It's quite obvious now. You can't hide it. So you really can't do it. And there will be so much backlash when you do that. So it's no going back now. Yeah.
Do you think it will bleed back into other forms of technology? So
Yes.
things that aren't powered by AI might be affected by the regulations that are imposed for AI.
Yes, totally. I do believe that. Yeah, it's going to be that impact and ripple effect.
Next question over here. Just while you're running it over, Yann, do you mind if I ask a quick question? You mentioned a various array of acts from a whole bunch of countries there, but I'm guessing that not all of those are in force yet. Perhaps none of them are in force yet. Do you have an idea of timelines, and do you think it will be in time?
Right. So I work in government a lot. I know I'm going to give you time, but I know when you work in governance, things shift. Nothing is cast in stone. But I know the EU is meant to come in effect in 2014, but you never can tell.
Okay.
It could change.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So for the others, I don't quite know that offhand. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
How are governments going to track what companies are doing? Sorry. How are governments going to track what a corporate is doing? So GDPR is very much based on a whistleblowing approach.
Yeah.
How are they going to get the insight into Amazon and Google and and potential policy breaking? How will that be tracked?
That's a very good question again. I think it's going to be a whistleblowing approach for most countries. But in the US, I think it's going to be quite different because the FCC is quite in their face and it's going to ask for it. I think the FCC will ask for it, in my opinion. So different countries will have different approaches to how they get that information. I think there'll be like a mandate to do it. It'll be like a mandatory thing to do. Yeah, not an option. Yeah, so you've got to tell them. Yeah, because if you do not tell them to do it, they're not going to do it. No one's going to do it. Like, I wouldn't do it if you didn't told me to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to the Netflix documentary in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
Of, like, the whistleblower who fought to get the truth heard.
It was just about clarifying. Did you say 2040? Did I hear that right?
No, 2024.
Oh.
Yeah, for the EU.
That's too late.
Yeah, because I think it's already late as it is at the moment because these things are already in the wild. So, yeah, 2024.
And one quick follow thing. One of them was unacceptable risk. And
Yes.
I wondered what that might have been on the, in terms of scale. What that means.
Yeah, just give me a minute to look at that. Right, so that like these are AI practices that are considered to be a clear threat to people's safety, livelihoods, and rights. Yeah. So there's going to be looking things like what does this look like? Oh, social scoring tools. Yeah, that's what that looks like.
Cool. We got a question for Olly. From Olly.
Hey, thanks for the talk. I almost feel this kind of follows on nicely from what you were just talking about in terms of unacceptable risk. Like from my point of view, the world kind of changed in March this year with GPT-4, and I don't know what Twitter bubbles the rest of you guys are hanging around in, but in mine, there's a lot of chat about existential risks from artificial superintelligence.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like this talk is, the world up to March 2023. And I feel like all this stuff is just going to accelerate in terms of worry and regulation and all this kind of stuff. You could almost add another level onto your pyramid there of everyone dying horribly. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, that's not really a question.
Yeah, so what was the question?
Sorry, there was no question.
Oh!
do you think that's true? Sorry, I felt it was almost the elephant in the room that sort of had to be said, really.
Okay.
Yeah, do you agree?
In my opinion, no. I think I'm going to say what I'm going to say. What I think is a lot of people who create these technologies live in a bubble. And when you're in they have a bubble with fantasies, which border on sci-fi. That is my personal opinion. I don't believe there's a thing like the idea of artificial general intelligence or superintelligence is interesting. Wow, okay. But is it here? Is it going to be here? It's always emerging forever. And we need to understand that AI came out in the 50s. It's not a new technology. So if they said that then and they're still saying it now. So in my opinion, we've got more pressing issues to address and pressing risk that we can actually see today. So why don't we just focus on those ones than everybody dying or things like that? That's my opinion, just my thought. Yeah.
I would suspect as well that the regulatory frameworks that they have or that they're putting in place to tackle the problems that we see now, those laws can be used to leverage, additional restrictions for if AI really does start to sort of run away very quickly, if that makes sense. Like let's leverage it. Sorry, go for it. Yeah.
Do you think that it's a potential future where the regulations stifle the progress of AI so much that what we end up having in, like, let's say 2050 is what we have right now, but just a little bit faster, rather than something completely new and revolutionary?
That's a good question. Lots of good questions today. There is that possibility. There is that possibility. But I think what regulations are looking at is to ensure that people are safe while we create these things. Because traditionally, when we create things or when we have test products, we do it in a safe environment before we deploy it. But now we're kind of like using real life people to test things, which is very, very risky. You wouldn't test drugs on the public. No, you wouldn't do that. You do that in a protected environment. So we kind of see why regulators are kind of like say, like, could you like take it easy a bit? People could die, literally. If you test things on real life people. So that's the issue, I think. Yeah, maybe things slow down. I don't know. Yeah.
Like you said, it's a really tough balance to walk, right? Progress versus safety. So,
yeah.
BC, do you like wave your arms manically if you're getting fed up with questions?
No, I'm fine. I can see.
I had a very sort of this might be a tough question to ask because I think it only got announced this morning, but I think, is it the EU and the US recently announced a joint code of conduct for AI, like whilst they're waiting for the regulations to get in place? I was wondering if you'd heard anything about that and had any thoughts.
I think I heard about that this morning on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't read it yet.
Okay, yeah, it's over.
I haven't read it yet. Everybody's coming out with something, that's the thing. And the problem is not coming out with something, that's quite easy. The hard part is getting people to like abide by these regulations and laws. That's the hard part, the enforcement. Taking up policies to make, that's quite easy, but getting people to like abide with the policies, that's what the problem is actually.
Yeah, I think because they were saying, well, if it's just a code of conduct and it's voluntary, then what's the point? But from what I could understand, the idea was that once you have that code of conduct, it's a bit easier to get regulation in place to say, if you haven't signed up to that code of conduct, you can't operate here, sort of thing. It's
I think when it comes to things like codes of conduct that people sign up to voluntarily, for me, it's a bit like whitewashing because you can't get them to do it. When I did my research, my master's research, it was on AI ethics in the Middle East. The Middle East, countries in the Middle East are signatories to the OECD AI principles. But I discovered that the way AI was being used in these countries were quite different from what the AI principles were saying, and they were signatories to it. So, it's hard. Yeah. You could just sign a thing and just move on. No one's going to like force you to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
What about these tools getting in the hands of North Korea and Russia?
Do you mind repeating the question, BC, just for the...
you mentioned Russia, not Korea, and tools.
Yeah.
So, like, what if?
I mean, you talk about regulation for EU.
Yeah.
You've got countries who, I mean, that's when you'll be entering, like, your red triangle.
The red triangle. Yeah. I think there will always be malicious actors in the world, regardless of what you have and what you do. And some countries will be those ones. It's just what it is. And you can't know what they are doing because they are not open about it. So you can just cross your fingers and hope like everybody behaves themselves. Yeah. So there will always be malicious actors. I guess that's the answer. Yeah.
Okay, we've got another one over here. Yann's got better eyes than me. Okay.
I've got to think how to ask the question. I'm a bit confused how to even ask the question. Okay, so if there's possible outcomes of where AI is going to take us, of course, and people are thinking, oh, we're going to be existential, people lose jobs, etc. One possible outcome is that it will kind of become part of us, implants, etc., Neuralinks. So is that something that ever gets discussed in terms of policy, thinking future? Because that is effectively what could create the superhuman, those that are able to have cognitive advantages compared to anyone else. I mean, if you want to worry about someone doing a dissertation using ChatGPT, that doesn't compare to going into an exam room where one person in the room has a neurological cognitive implants, etc. Is that something that gets discussed, considered? Do you guys think that far ahead?
That's a good question. Again, it doesn't get in public documents. It doesn't get stated. I haven't read any of that in any public documents on national AI strategies. Neither have I heard about it being talked about. But I'm aware of thoughts like that. Maybe people in the Ministry of Defense have that kind of thinking, but people in defense don't like publish reports, so you can't know what's going on there. So I would say it's not far-fetched to think about that happening, but it doesn't really, that's not the focus of most discussions on AI policy. No. Yeah.
No more questions. I have plenty of questions, BC, but maybe for the pub afterwards. But anyway, I will release you.
Yeah, I've got one request. Oh, you got a question?
It might be the same as yours. I was going to say, I think you have a project.
Yeah, I have a project.
That's probably
okay, brilliant.
Go on.
So I'm working. My company working on a project. We're looking at the AI and ML needs of companies in the UK. So we want to know what your challenges are and what kind of infrastructure you need to help your businesses. So if you have any insight or reflections about what the government can provide and things like that, please come talk to me. I would like to gather your thoughts and get your inputs. Thank you. Yeah.
I can show some stuff off first if.
Yeah, that's a great idea. If you do a demo and then we sort of have it as a station.
Oh, this is the Apple AR glasses, though. You weren't supposed to see those.
Yeah.
That's very
stylish.
All right. Well, so this is what it looks like. So actually, little show of hands. Who's interacted with anything? ChatGPT, Midjourney. All right. Yeah, quite a few. Makes sense why you're here then. Cool. This is one of the ways that you can interact with Stable Diffusion. Some of you may have seen it before. Some of you may have seen a very similar but different interface. And essentially, the main controls here are a prompt or prompt. I like the meme of prompt. It just sounds a bit dumber because, we're the monkey here. And you have a negative prompt where you can sort of, there's a lot more stuff than when this started. I mean, pretty much by the day. This is all Dockerized. This is not, sadly, running on a late 2013 MacBook Pro. That would be very impressive. This is remoted over. You can see the little ngrok URL on the top back home where there's a more serious rig. Sorry to disappoint if anyone thought I was kind of lugging a supercomputer on my back today. But yeah, you basically chuck in some words. You can weigh things, and you can sort of see a little bit of a tooltip here. And then it can go very far. You can sort of control a seed if you want to sort of generate something, but actually control a little bit
how it's going to be generated. And then they don't work very well, but things like face restoration, if you've seen AI images where the faces are really warped and terrible, this claims to restore them. It does not. You can upscale, so a lot of AI will run low resolution images, and you'll want to make them bigger, therefore you upscale, and various things like that. But yeah, I showed this off first. Very different looking interface. It was, decades behind in technology compared to today, even though it was 6 months ago, back at the November show and tell. And we did a communal prompt, which worked really well. So that means it won't this time. But if you just yell out words, then I will throw them into the prompt and we'll see what happens.
How about a JavaScript meetup in Brighton?
JavaScript meetup. Any other words? Sky. Sunset. Okay. Toast. I mean, so because toast is important, we can put our finger on the scales here. Thumb, rather. Anything else? Aliens. All right, cool. And anyone got these usually work better with a style. So give me some kind of style. Cell shaded Salvador Dali. That's awesome. I don't know how those will go together, but that's the magic of AR. How do you spell Dali? Probably makes a difference. Is that, if I've got it right? Cool. So we hit Invoke. This is quite a nice one where you sort of see it generating in real time. And yeah, we confused it. And then you see the final output.
Wow, that is kind of amazing. Who's the guy?
Yes. That's probably, yeah.
Oh,
There we go. So if anyone wants to try it out, we'll wrap up here and we'll probably, 30 minutes go to the pub?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we're
20 minutes probably, if we need to be out of here by 5:30. So yeah, he's here. Come
on over.
and
I'll keep this up on the big screen and
bring your
we'll figure out
imagination
some
to
queuing
life.
system.
Yeah, excellent. But anyway, that's it for tonight. Thanks so much, everyone. Big round of applause.